everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Erin Williams. This is a condensed version of my essay, Complicity. One of the heifers is having trouble calving, my father said, standing outside my bedroom door in the middle of a frigid Illinois winter night. Do you want to help? Within minutes, I was climbing a wooden gate into a shed where a big-bellied heifer eyed us and backed into the corner. Froth gurgled from her mouth, and her bellows echoed off the walls. Eyes rolled back, she swung her head and shifted her weight as dust motes rose from the straw. She strained and tried to lie down and then stood again. A pang of dread stabbed my gut. I wanted to help her, but as a 10-year-old, all I could do was sit on a straw bale and watch what unfolded. Knotting a rope, my father approached her. She pressed back against the wall. He slipped the rope around her neck and tied her to a post. Clouds of steam billowed from her mouth. She did not struggle. My grandfather arrived a few minutes later. He grabbed the heifer's tail and bent it over her back. She flinched and pressed forward into the wall, immobilized by the pain. Standing behind her, my father put one hand on her flank and pushed his other into her. He worked his arm back and forth, and within a few moments, he was up to his elbow. "Yup, it's all twisted up in there," he said. This calf was not ready to be born in the normal position. My father pushed his other hand into the heifer. She bellowed and slammed her shoulder into the wall. My grandfather twisted her tail harder, pushing it back over her so tightly that I thought it would snap off. She panted in deep, heaving gasps. I wanted to hold my hands over my face, to run away, but I watched in terrified fascination. My father was inside the heifer nearly to his shoulders. He winced, trying to change the calf's position inside her. "I don't think it's going to budge," he said. "We're going to have to pull it out." He stared at the wall, concentrating as he looped another rope around the calf's back feet. My grandfather wound the other end of the rope around a post, and he began to pull. The heifer's eyes bulged. My grandfather pulled harder. It all happened at once. The little hooves appeared, legs, curly white fur. In a rush of fluids and blood, the calf slid out of the cow. The placenta followed, slipping into the straw in a gelatinous heap. I let go of the breath I had been holding. He was a little bull. Wet, tiny, and confused, lying there as my grandfather cleaned the mucus plug out of his nose. As he sucked in his first breath, his mother turned around, smelled his face, and began licking their blood from his fur. He lay motionless for a few moments, steaming in the cold, until he tried to stand on twitching, quivering legs. Focused on her calf, the cows appeared oblivious to our presence. The next morning, I stumbled into my coat and ran to the shed. I imagined the cow and calf snuggled together in the straw, their steaming breath and warm pocket against the cold. Perhaps I would see the calf nursing, pushing his head impatiently against his mother's udder. Instead, her head was extended over the fence, and she was bellowing again. She seemed even more distraught than she had the previous night. The calf was gone. Confused, I stared at the cow, who seemed frantic. She called again, and I heard it, a faint answer from the calf hutches. The calf had already been taken from the shed. Down at the hutches, the calf bleated, his pink tongue sticking out of his mouth. I had never thought about how the cows reacted when their calves were taken. Listening to the mother and the calf call each other, I wanted to cry. Later, when I joined my grandfather to help with the bottle feeding, the calf was gone. For the first time, I realized that while the female calves joined the herd, we had only one bull. "Grandpa," I asked, "what happens to the boy calves?" Some 30 years later, I don't remember his answer exactly, but I suspect that he told me that the calf went to a field producer. That is, after all, the standard fate for male dairy calves. He almost certainly went to a bleak, woodenless shed, lined with rows of individual wooden crates. Here, he spent the rest of his life in the shadows, separated from his mother, unable to turn around, caked in yellow excrement until he was hauled away for slaughter after 5 months. Even as a 10-year-old, I recognized that the few moments of peace at the end of the calf's birth, when his mother lovingly licked their shared blood off of his fur as he lay in the straw, was a fleeting pastoral idyll that stood in marked contrast to the rest of the animals' lives. The moments of tenderness were soon eclipsed by the cow's mournful howling for a missing calf, and by what followed for both animals. This was the first experience of several that caused me to question our collective treatment of animals, to decide at 14 never to eat another animal again, and to become vegan at 20. Some of these experiences were quiet moments of grace. Others had the potential either to harden me or to challenge my conscience. They allowed me to see animals as individuals with their own interests and emotional lives, with the capacity to suffer and to experience joy. They made me question who I want to be, question how to interact with the world and the creatures with whom we share it. In the transition between the new calf's life and death, this was the first time I questioned anything. Thank you.